If you are bleeding, vomiting, about to die, don't talk to me the first 5 minutes of class. Just don't do it, okay? Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Allie, and I'm here to help you along your journey of being a teacher. Do you need a guide to conquering your first day of school? The first day of school is the most important day of the school year. It sets the tone for the rest of the year. If you want to learn how to not just survive the first day of school, but to conquer it, please keep watching. There are several things that must happen before you meet your student. The first thing you need to do is research books dedicated to surviving your first day of school or classroom management books. Lucky for you, I have a few that I'm going to recommend and the things that I found most helpful from each. So here we go. One book I suggest is Harry K. Wong's Surviving the First Day of School. This was actually required reading for the second school I worked for, and I found so many useful tips in it, and as I was thumbing through and reviewing it again before I talked about it, I realized that a lot of the things that I already do, this book suggests. I'm about to say some quotes that came from Harry K. Wong. Okay, so the first one that I really found helpful was, what you do the first days of school will determine your success or failure for the rest of the school year. You will either win or lose your class on the first days of school. So again, that was Harry Wong. And let me tell you, he is so right about that. In the beginning, you need to come in consistent. You need to know everything about your class. You just need to be on point. If you're not on point any other day, you need to be on point the first day of school. Okay? Another quote I'm going to read by Harry Wong is the first day of school or class, even the first few minutes will make or break a teacher. So once again, the first day of school or class, even the first few minutes will make or break a teacher. So like I said earlier, this quote goes along with the first one I talked to you about, and oh my gosh, this is so true. Please, please, please do not ignore this advice. There are actually 4 main things that Harry Wong says you need to do to be successful for your first days of school. Okay, so 1, you must have your room ready. If you've watched my previous videos, you will see how to get it ready in one day. So have your room ready. Okay, you are at the door. You're at the door, like I said, greeting your kids. I always hand them something to do when they walk in, but you're at the door greeting them. Okay, the next one is have assigned seats. I've talked about this, I think, in my very first video. They had really bad editing with lots of long pauses, and anyway, I figured that out. And then the second video, I got cut off because my editor I was using buffers and I couldn't find the exact times. Anyway, doesn't matter. We got it fixed now. So, okay. All right, last thing Harry wants us to do, have your first assignment ready. And I'm going to include on my website a resource you can use. It's not the full one because I sell these in my Teachers Pay Teacher store, and they're $2. I'll link it in the description, but I'll give you a free sample of it on my website. That is hotforteaching.weebly.com. hotforteaching.weebly.com. Okay, so now that we've got those 4 concepts with Harry Wong, one thing you do need to know is your school's dress code policy. You're thinking, why? Why do I need to know my school's dress code policy? Well, let me tell you why. Whenever I was teaching and I was very new, every school I have ever worked at, the teachers that always had control of their classroom, when they greeted the kids and said, hello, nice to meet you, they might say, that shirt's a little short. Okay, so you need to do something about that to fix it, or you need to go call home to get new appropriate clothes for school. So even though this seems really harsh in the beginning, I have noticed teachers that were successful with classroom management always check dress code. It's like the first kind of in command thing you do when you meet them. So for what it's worth, know your school's dress code. One thing that is important though, if you're going to be really enforcing the dress code, which I strongly suggest, is to talk to your administrator and ask them what to do if a kid comes to school on the first day of school out of dress code. Now, I've worked for some administrators that are like, send them straight to the office, or they need to go change if they have extra clothes. And then I've also had some say you correct them firmly, and then you're like, don't let it happen again or else. And when you enforce this dress code policy, it is your way to seem really in control. It's your firm way of saying, ooh, you know, it's your message to the student saying, oh my goodness, this lady does not play. She's strict, she's doing this, she's sending us out, or she's this or that. So keep that in mind, okay? Okay, make sure that you follow through with whatever your administrator said to do. Because you're gonna feel pretty silly if you send a bunch of children to the office and the administrators send them back and say, oh, they just can't do it again. So make sure you have this information. That way you seem like you know what's going on, and this is what it is. Another book I recommend is Fred Jones's Tools for Teaching. They have a website. It is www.fredjones.com. Now, Fred Jones is another person that helps teachers with classroom management. By the way, this video is not sponsored by anybody, so these books I'm recommending are my own personal favorites. This book was actually required at the third school I taught at when I taught 8th grade math. Now let's talk about Fred Jones's basic fundamental principles. So, the first one, keep it positive. Make sure you do not go over there and are just like, rah, rah, rah. Just try to keep your wording in a positive manner, but strict. Okay, second is proximity. We know that if we're up in front of the class and we're talking and we're telling a great story and we see some kids talking, it's probably best not to just call them out. Just ease over there and stand right beside them. And if you have to, you got to give them that look. And in this book, it talks about how to give kids the mean business look. And I'm still working on it, but I have found if you just relax your face, don't do anything with your face, try it. Relax your face and then look. That's how I get my teacher face, and it's hard for me because I always want to smile. Okay, so seating arrangement. He says it's best to seat your children where you can get to them within 4 steps. Now, this is actually a very good tip, but I kind of taught some tough children, and yes, it only took me 4 steps to get to anybody I wanted to get to, but it also let the kids have 4 steps away from someone they wanted to fight. So just be mindful of your students, and maybe you should have a policy where they can't get up for any reason. I don't know. Okay? And communication with parents is the 4th one. That is super important, and if you can, try to call the parents of kids you think you might have problems with prior to them giving you a problem. That way you have talked to them about their child in a positive manner before you have to talk about the behavior. That kind of goes back to Mark McLeod's deposits and emotional deposits and withdrawals. You should probably make a good deposit with that parent before you start talking negatively about their child. Okay? Okay. And last but not least of his basic fundamentals is to engage students. Actually have interesting lessons for them. Duh, right? Because if they're having fun, then they won't be in trouble as much. The last book that I found helpful, and I found a lot of books helpful, but I don't want to talk too much about all the books I've read. But the last book that I'm going to recommend is called The Teacher Survival Handbook. This is written by Martha Ainsworth, and it can be purchased on Amazon. By the way, this video is not sponsored at all. This is just one of my favorite books. The Teacher Survival Handbook gives new teachers, both regular and special education, a handbook of survival tips on handling student disruptions in the classroom. This book is basically a manual for surviving both mild and severe student disruptions. I also want to add that the Teacher Survival Handbook gives you topics such as the teacher attitude, maybe causes of the disruptions, specific techniques, real-life examples on how to prevent and handle disruptive behavior. This book will be a help for beginning and seasoned teachers in managing disruptive behavior in a class. Now let me tell you something. One reason I like this book so much is she gives you specific solutions to things that possibly happen. So like a lot of books just go into the proactive approach, which setting up your classroom, having the seating chart, that's proactive. You are trying to get yourself together so you're not having to react to the disruptions. But see, this book, sometimes you will be proactive all day long and still have disruptions. this book gives you specific things you do when something happens. For example, okay, she was talking about how she was in class and she was walking around and they kept dropping their books. And she said that instead of yelling at everybody to stop doing that, blah, 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 she held up her books in front of her, dropped it, boom, and said, all right, now that we're all done dropping our books, can we please get on with the lesson? Sorry, Miss Ainsworth, I don't know if that's a good impression of you, but I tried though. All right. Okay, so let me rephrase that. Shoot, I lost what I was saying, darn. And it's actually kind of funny because I read that section in her book, and then the following day, I was walking around my class, minding my own business, and every time I would just slightly not be facing the students, I would see paper going across my shoulders, right? And when I turned around, I'd stop, and then I'd turn back around where I couldn't see them, and so you know what I did? I was like, all right, I'm gonna do what Miss Martha Ainsworth says to do. I got a sheet of paper, crumpled it slowly and dramatically, and just tossed it. And it landed on the floor, and I was like, okay, now that we're all done throwing paper, let's get back on with the lesson. And all the kids laughed, and it was a great experience, and I was like, thank you, Miss Ainsworth. All right, so that's one reason I like her book. Another thing you need to do when you get ready for your first day of school is you need to read your students' handbook. You need to know what is in there, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and really focus on the types of infractions the students will have. Okay, so just know what the handbook says. It's really going to help you out later. All right, because you can say, according to the handbook, blah, 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 blah. So now for the moment you've all been waiting for, when the students arrive. Woo, I know you're excited. Okay, so first day, your room's set up, everything's organized the way it needs to be. You're standing at the front of the door, or by the door, and you have your bell ringer assignments in your hand. Like I said, I have created these. They're in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. I'll link it down in the description below, but I'm also going to include a sample of this free on my website. Okay, so as the students are arriving, you are at the door, you have your bell ringer assignment in your hand, the seating chart's on the board, they come in, you look them in the eye, give them a good handshake and say, hi, I'm Miss Mac, what's your name? Or whatever. They'll tell you your name if you can't pronounce it, because some kids I can't pronounce. I'm like, could you say that again for me? I'm terrible at pronouncing names. And then they'll repeat it. And then I'll look on the seating chart, because I'm halfway in the door, halfway out the door, and I'll say, all right, you are in row this. See up there, let me know if you can't find them. Get to work on this quietly. And I do that with every single student. Okay, so you have your seating chart, just like Harry Wong said to do. You have your assignment at the door, they have a task to do, and it needs to be something simple that they can complete without your help. I have given all kinds of assignments, ones that are more challenging or ones that I thought were grade level, and then I just had all these questions. And granted, I do want to answer these questions, I do want to interact with them, but the first day of like the school day, and like that whole week, you're gonna have some housekeeping things. I know a lot of times we get kids added to our roster, taken off our roster, and you need to squeeze them in and find a place for them. Also, you've got to take attendance. So they need to have something they can do without your help. Now, when you greet them, it's important that you tell them to work quietly. But if, say, there's one or two that decides they don't want to work quietly while you're taking care of housekeeping things, I usually go, lean over or squat down and say very firmly but kindly, I expect you to stay quiet. Okay, and usually they'll stop because it's like the first day, they don't know me, I don't know them. Okay, but if they continue to talk, give them your first consequence. I might say, so-and-so, this is your warning, and then document it on your student rosters, and I'll put a sample of that on my website as well. Okay, so after about 7 to 10 minutes of them working on this independently, introduce yourself. I usually don't tell them too much about me. I want them to see me more as an authority figure than like a real person in the beginning. And I know that sounds bad, but with my personality, because let's be honest, I come across as a little flaky. So people think people like me are not stern and cannot be consistent a lot of times. At least that's what I've gathered. So you just have to be real tough in the beginning, especially if you're flaky like me. After you introduce yourself, Inform the students immediately of your rules and consequences. And be animated with it. You want them to pay attention to you, okay? So be animated, be silly, maybe tell an anecdote to go along with the rule or something. All right, so do that. Give students a handout of this and your syllabus if your school requires it. Then tell students what supplies they need to be successful in your class. This is important as well. In my school, a lot of kids don't do this, but it's worth trying. And maybe if you have money on your whatever that card is they give you that has money on it, maybe you can buy some supplies so kids will all have what they need to be successful. After you tell students your rules and consequences, you need to tell them how to enter and exit the classroom. This is also important. I have learned that the way they come in, it sets the tone for the entire class period. So I have a thing where unless you are bleeding, vomiting, about to die, don't talk to me the first 5 minutes of class. Just don't do it, okay? Okay. All right, so having that standard has been very helpful because I've noticed when I didn't have that policy, kids would always want to come and tell me what happened. And I do want to hear these things, but I've got to take attendance. And while they're talking to me, I see everybody in the room not doing what they're supposed to. So I need to be alert, not talking to anybody, looking people, get to work, come on, you know, that kind of thing. So that might be a good policy for you. Don't let them talk the first 5 minutes unless it's a major emergency, okay? So teach them how to enter and exit your room. I always tell them what I expect and what I don't expect. And then sometimes I will let them give me a good example and a bad example. I've also created scripts, but I have found that it works better if you say, show me how to do this wrong, and they all do it wrong, and then say, show me how to do it right. So that's less preparation on you. But I will also put the scripts I've used in the past on my website. That is hotforteaching.weebly.com. Okay? After you've taken attendance, after you've introduced yourself, after you have taught them how to come in and exit your room, now it's time for an icebreaker activity. I like those worksheets. You can Google icebreaker activities and find all kinds, but the one I like to use is the one where it says find someone who has 3 dogs, has lived in another state, has a little sister, you know, those kind of things. So they can walk around the room and get signatures, and then at the end, if you have time, discuss. But it is super important to have extra stuff to do, be over prepared than under prepared, because there's nothing worse to being done with all the items on your lesson plan and everyone's just looking around at each other like, all right, we're gonna talk, yay, free time. And then they think, oh, we have spare time in her room, and you do not want that. You want every minute to be accounted for. Disclaimer, if you are not comfortable with icebreaker activities where they're up around and doing all this stuff, don't do it. Have them work on that pack for the remainder of the class. It's okay, do it. And if they don't finish, tell them they have homework. And so the one I used that I said was in my store, and I'm really not trying to sell things here, it basically asks a lot of questions about them, and then in between questions it says stuff like, who lives in the house with you? How do you get home? What's your bedtime? You know, it's sprinkled there so I have information to know like how lenient or strict their parents might be, and that might be helpful knowledge in the future. Just keep in mind, you don't have to do an activity where they're up all around the room. It is totally fine to have them do independent work. In fact, I almost think having them do independent work for almost the first week is the best route, because you need them to be able to work quietly. And I'll talk about the way I do centers in another video, but that's the independent center. That's the one you start with, them working quietly and you help. Okay, so you have made it through, say, your first 3 classes. You've done the same routine with the shaking their hand, checking the dress code, giving the activity, introducing yourself, rules, consequences, all that. Now you're at the lunch period where you take kids to lunch. So make sure before school starts, you know which table is yours, okay? Ask your colleagues, ask your administrator, which lunch table am I assigned, or do we just sit where we sit when we first get here? Usually you have an assigned table. Okay, so you need to know how to do that, and be sure to teach students what is expected of them in the lunchroom, okay? Because kids can act crazy. Like, you need to talk to them about being classy, having table manners, all that good things, okay? So make sure you know which table is yours, and be sure to teach the lunchroom procedures with your students. Also, Ask your colleagues about lunchroom procedures, like how do we exit the lunch line or enter the lunch line, or how do we throw away our trays. Stuff like that. Just little things you need to know, and you need to teach those to your students. Earlier, I talked about a book written by Fred Jones. He suggests when you take kids to lunch, you explain the expectation and have them line up for lunch a little bit early. Remember I told you I have Monday row, Tuesday row, Wednesday row, Thursday row, Friday row. So say it's Monday. I'll let the Monday row go first, Tuesday second, so forth and so on. Okay, and then on Tuesday, the Tuesday row goes first. So that's how I do it. But anyway, he says, teach those procedures. Now, as they're walking, if not 100% of them does not meet it, you have them stop, turn around, and walk back all the way to the classroom. And keep doing this till they get it right. I would suggest you do 10 minutes. But a lot of times on the first day of school, they won't act out. But keep making them turn around and go back till they get it perfect. And by the way, if you do this strategy, make sure you talk to your administrator. The third school I worked at, this was the required book for us. So everybody was having their kids turn around and go to the lunchroom. And one lady actually would tell them, okay, you're losing your lunch time. And sometimes their kids would only have 10 minutes to eat, which I think is illegal, and they stop that. But anyway, doesn't matter. Okay. So this is a good strategy because kids will get tired because they're hungry and they want to go eat. And that's what I say. There's a difference between hungry and hungry. All right? You're sitting down eating lunch and you have a student or two that's breaking the rules that you taught before you came. Now, normally I say, so-and-so, this is not the expectation. You need to get yourself together or something like that. And if they keep on, I give them one more reminder. And then after that, I have my roster with me. And I just, every infraction, I give them a check. Check, check, check. Because what happens is you could get in a standoff in the lunchroom and everybody's watching you. And that has happened to me, and it's horrible, by the way. And my principal pulled me to the side later and was like, next time a kid does that, you let them know. And then they keep on. You keep racking up those consequences. Don't do anything. And then when you get back to the classroom, deliver a consequence for every single infraction, even if it goes to the referral. And just because they get to the referral doesn't mean they have to skip all the other steps. They have to do that time. So that's a very good tip. And oh man, that's one thing I wish I would have known. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't get in an argument or stand off with a kid in the cafeteria. Just write it down, keep writing it, and then deliver those consequences. It'll send a big message, trust me. So you have survived the lunch period. You're back in the classroom. I recommend letting them go to the restroom either before, at least before they can wash their hands, or after you come back from lunch. So if you don't go before, make sure you have hand sanitizer handy. But now you are in 7th period. Why did I say 7th period? Not everybody has 7 periods. You're at the last period of the day. Before school starts, you need to ask someone, what is the procedure if a child does not know how they're getting home? So you need to know how a child is getting home. And if they don't know, you need to know the procedure for that. Now, your principal will probably tell you to have the child come to the office and call their parents and ask them, or they might have an address like of which bus they need to get on based on the child, where she or he is getting, let me say that again. They might have a procedure as far as looking up the child's address to tell them what bus they need to ride. So make sure you know that procedure, because it would be terrible to be 7th period, everybody's going home, buses are being called, or you're walking to the buses and you have a child right there that has no idea how they're getting home. Make sure you do that at the beginning. That's one of those housekeeping things you need to do at the beginning while they're working on independent work. Okay? Super important. Write it down. So the last period of the day is over and all the kids are gone. You made it. You survived your first day, and I hope you followed all the tips that I gave you, because it should be very successful. You didn't just survive it, you conquered it. You made the first day your something. So anyway, you made it. All right, so this is important. When they've all gone, I need you throughout the day to be thinking of kids that are doing amazing things, writing that down too. And at the end of the day, for every class period you teach, make one positive phone call. One positive phone call. And tell them how awesome their first day was with you. It'll make a difference later. Okay, now the hard part. If you had to get on to anybody today, more than the warning, because remember, the way my school does it, after the warning, you have to call parents for every step. So if you have to call, you need to definitely call if you had to give out a consequence, but make sure you start out with a positive statement. I really enjoyed meeting your child today. He or she was very helpful in this way. Make sure it's sincere. Say, but we had problems when we went to lunch and I need your help with this. I really want he or she to be successful, and for he or she to be successful in my class, he needs to follow my rules. He or she needs to follow my rules and procedures. So just be very kind, say you're on the same team, you want them to be successful, and I will make another video dedicated to parent phone calls, because after you've made the phone call, store the parent's name in your phone. So say the acronym for your school is THS, Thomas High School. So in my phone, I would put THS, the parent's name, parent's last name, and then in parentheses, the child's name. That way, if a parent ever calls me back or texts me, I know immediately who it is, and I'm like, who is this? So do that. Also, some teachers don't like to give out their personal phone number. Let me tell you, my first year of teaching, I needed to give out my personal phone number because I was pulled from a lesson I was teaching and an assistant took my place. I was in a meeting with a parent and they were really mad. My principal was there. The parents and the principal were mad at me because I graded their child's paper wrong, and I was so embarrassed. I did make a mistake on grading. I apologize, but I was blindsided. And had that parent had my phone number, my cell phone, she would have contacted me directly to talk about it instead of going through my administrator. My administrator, who I am serious, she did not like me at all. Like, that's another story, but I probably shouldn't talk about it. But anyway, it's okay. And if, say, you really don't want to give out your personal phone number, I believe there's like Google Voice or something. So the way Google Voice works is it gives you a fake phone number, and when you call parents through the app shows this fake phone number, but you're still talking on your number. So that's a suggestion if you really don't want to give out your personal phone number, but make sure that parents have direct contact with you, because it's much better for them to call you and you to talk to them and explain your side of the story than them go above your head and then you're stuck in a meeting with everybody looking at you like you're the devil. Yeah, so good tip. Write that down too. So after you've made your phone calls, the positive for each class period and any student that caused disruptions, now you need to document it, because you need to document everything. I will put up something that you can use if you would like at my website, hotforteaching.weebly.com. I don't know why I can't say that without headbanging there. But you made it. You survived your first day. I hope you followed all those tips, or you're going to follow those tips, because you will have an amazing day if you stick with it. And you kind of have to be an actress and just be kind of almost aloof, not bothered by anything, you know what I mean? But now you get to do it all again tomorrow. You got to put on that same strict face, do all that. So if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it helpful or you know it will help someone else. I upload on Sundays. Sometimes I put videos up in between, but Sunday is a guaranteed day. I would also like to add that I am now on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with Hot for Teaching on how to help other teachers. So please check me out. I will put my links and all that good stuff in the description below. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.